Hi, and welcome back to another LVP Conversation. Today we will be interviewing Jason Simbre, who is majoring in psych at Cal. Welcome, Jason, and we just have a couple questions to ask you, and I think Jelly's going to start us off.
So could you tell us like a little bit about your backstory with music?
Yeah. I started my music education, I believe, when I was around 5 years old. I started my first instrument as a piano, and I took lessons with the same teacher ever since until junior year of high school. So yeah, and then after that, I went on to learn about jazz piano. I started playing trumpet when I was in the seventh grade. I started singing when I was in the second grade, but didn't really pursue it like as seriously until my senior year of high school when I got into chamber choir. Most recently, I've picked up the bass guitar and I'm trying to learn that. So yeah. In terms of background, I started off with a classical education in music. But then over time, especially in high school, I started to move into a bigger interest in jazz specifically. Yeah.
So, how is it like being a psych major? What classes have you taken that have interested you the most? And have you learned anything specifically about music and psychology? And what have you learned through the liberal arts education at Cal?
Yeah. Ooh, it's a good question. The side classes I've taken at Berkeley so far are really interesting. I'd say the best one I took was actually a cognitive science class. It was Cog Sci 1 Introduction to Cognitive Science. And the best part about that class was that it was interdisciplinary. So I learned from different disciplines that you wouldn't think affected cognitive science, but they actually do. So the most interesting thing about that class is that I got to see different guest speakers who talked about their own discipline and seeing how everything connected in the big picture. In terms of music, with psychology, what I learned about it thus far, because it's a very niche area of psychology, I'd say I've the most that I've learned so far was where exactly it affects the brain, like what areas of the brain are stimulated when a person is experiencing music, as well as a little bit into how music was present during the ancient stages of humankind and human development. Oh, I did get to learn a little bit about how music is a form of alternative medicine. How there's something about the subjective experience of music that allows people to it almost has healing properties. I couldn't go into specifics about it because I'm not really trained in that area yet. But yeah.
So what has been your biggest takeaway from learning about psychology?
Ooh, in general, oh my gosh. I think I think my biggest takeaway would be a change in perspective, and not only that, but a change in worldview. You never really get to think about existing. First off, when I was younger, existing wasn't really something special to me. It was more I am here, but that's it. I'm here. But if you really think about it, each and every person is experiencing their own subjective experiences, living their own lives and having their own memories. And you think about how every person is wired differently and how that can be affected by your environment, or how that could be an innate thing for people. So you really get to think about when you're learning about psychology or neuroscience, just what are these things that make people the way they are, and what are the things in each of us that cause us to experience our own subjective experience. And then you think about no one's experience, there's no way to prove that we experience things the same. There's no way to prove that you and I see the same color. Orange to me could be a different orange, for you. Yeah, just an example. It just really puts things into perspective.
That's always cool, thinking about existing.
Hmm. Yeah,
But
definitely.
LVP tries to focus on mental health with music also.
Mhm.
So, what are some ways that you've maintained your mental health during the quarantine and shelters?
Mhm. Let's see. So to maintain my mental health, at first it was a little hard because like it's a complete break from your regular routine. Like we're so used to seeing people like outside. We're so used to like having the ability to go outside if we want to. And at first it was a huge toll on me actually, because like I found out like, oh, I'm not able to see people when I want to anymore. So then I started to like take time for myself first off. I took up the bass guitar and I like started to play that. And I got time to like, let's see, focus on dancing. That's another hobby that I have. And then I started to think about it. I was like, the fact that like I feel this way and that like I'm missing my friends just shows that like in my life I have friends to miss. So I just like it just made me grateful like all the things that like I had. So then like it almost made me happy to like yeah, now I spend like I almost talk to my friends like every day now, like whether we're gaming or just like FaceTiming or whatever. Yeah. And it makes you feel grateful like for everything that you have. So yeah, just having that in my mind helped me get through this, as well as like having the support of my family and like others. Yeah.
Yeah, super great. So I know you're starting school in like 2 weeks. So I was wondering if you have any tips on like how other students can stay focused and like keep their mental health good, like especially
Mhm.
with online learning.
Yeah, for sure. I would say first, you're not alone. You have so many people that you can go to, and even if you don't feel like you do, like trust me, there is always someone there for you. Try not to like let your studies overwhelm you. Let's see. You can take breaks and take time for yourself also. Don't just like go head first into your studies and like think like I have to get this done, blah 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 blah. There is time for your studies and then there's time for you also, and you are also a priority. So make sure that you remember that and keep that in mind. Yeah.
Solid advice. Our last question for you today is, what are some ways that you think younger generations or like the youth of today can engage in raising mental health awareness?
Ooh, I'd say first, the best way to like get started with this topic is to get informed. So obviously, like you would need a resource or like an initial push to like find out like where you can learn about this kind of stuff before like you become an activist for the topic. So I'd say, I mean, what y'all are doing already is pretty good. So like finding y'all as a resource and like somehow like just branching out and letting yourself be vulnerable to the information that you could potentially accept, because then you can only grow from that. That's my advice.
Thank you for answering all of our questions and coming to another one of LVP's conversations.
For sure. It was awesome.